Even covered in dust and rust, that old Supra still looks seriously iconic sitting in the junkyard. That front bumper's rough as anything, but you can still see the Supra's classic shape underneath all vinaigrette. Even in that rough condition, the Supra still carries that unmistakable 90s sports car presence. That cracked roofline and windscreen tell a rough story, but the Supra's shape still stands out instantly. The lower body's taken a beating, but the Supra still looks like it's waiting for a second chance. That dusty rear wing still gives the Supra its classic aggressive stance, even after all these years. Even abandoned in that sea of wrecks, the Supra still instantly stands out as something special. Even under all that dust, the Supra's classic curves are starting to come back to life. Watching that old mud peel away really shows there's still a proper Supra hiding underneath. That compressed air cleanup is finally exposing the Supra's sharp body lines again. Those wheel arches were absolutely packed with grime, but the Supra's starting to show through again. The underside's rough, but there's still a solid Supra platform hiding under all that grime. Yo. Now that the grime's coming off, you can finally see the Supra underneath again. Even the tiny seam details are bringing the Supra back to life, bit by bit. That muddy runoff proves just how much dirt the Supra's been carrying for years. Once that grille started clearing out, the Supra's front end finally looked alive again. Seeing that mud peel away in slow motion makes the Supra look alive again. This old Supra's got serious grit made it, rough around the edges but still built like a proper legend, a battered icon slowly coming back to life. This abandoned 1995 Toyota Supra is finally being stripped back properly made, and once that front bump, this abandoned 1995 Toyota Supra is finally getting stripped down properly made. Once that wheel comes off, the years of corrosion underneath become impossible to ignore. This abandoned 1995 Toyota Supra headlight assembly is absolutely packed with years of hidden grime. This abandoned 1995 Toyota Supra is finally exposing what's been hiding behind the dashboard for decades, mate. Every removed panel uncovers, and this abandoned 1995 Toyota Supra is finally getting its old electrical system stripped back properly, mate. Even the wiring carries this abandoned 1995 Toyota Supra is finally getting stripped right down to the chassis, mate. The real battle starts beneath the body. Abandoned 1995 Toyota Supra is finally coming apart the right way, mate. Every removed part brings the legend, cause this abandoned 1995 Toyota Supra is finally coming apart the right way, mate. Every removed part brings the legend, cause the rebirth. This abandoned 1995 Toyota Supra is now stripped right back to its bare chassis, mate. Watching that rust turn into clean, exposed metal is seriously satisfying. Every sanding stroke brings the Supra back to life. This abandoned 1995 Toyota Supra is finally getting the worst corrosion colorway properly made, and seeing those rock panels spot. This abandoned 1995 Toyota Supra is finally shedding years of brutal corrosion, mate. And seeing that clean, this abandoned 1995 Toyota Supra is finally starting to show its original shape again, mate. And the contrast between Phoenix, this abandoned 1995 Toyota Supra is finally starting to reveal clean steel beneath decades of neglect. This abandoned 1995 Toyota Supra is finally starting to look properly reborn, mate. And once that sanding dust gets, this abandoned 1995 Toyota Supra is finally getting the corrosion stripped right out from underneath, mate. The rebuild starts where rest. This abandoned 1995 Toyota Supra is finally getting the first suspension hardware it deserves, mate. New parts mean the Supra's comeback is, yes, finally replacing these lines. The old lines were properly corroded after all these years, so fitting the new tube in feels good. It's incredibly satisfying finally seeing this old Supra come back together after all these years of neglect. The wiring on these 95 Supras is always the worst part. Everything's cooked and brittle after all these years. There we go. It's satisfying when they finally line up properly after all that trial fitting. You wouldn't believe how dry and seized these moving parts were before we started the restoration work. Yeah, much better now. Glad we finally got rid of the stiff resistance that old neglected system used to have for cleaning these turbos now, but you should have seen the engine bay when it arrived. It was absolutely covered in gunk, but slightest beauty in. Honestly, it's satisfying replacing these cold old parts that have probably sat here for decades. It's amazing how smooth this feels now. All that corrosion is gone, and the gears just glide against each other. She was absolutely ridden, mate. Look at this stress fracture right here. Reckon we can patch her up good as new though. So this section here was completely split. We've managed to pull it back mostly straight, just setting the clamp now, and we'll start the weld. Just working on the structural damage now. She was probably rusted out under all that neglect. Alright, we're finally sealing up one of the worst damaged sections on this Supra chassis here. See this frame out here? Used to be cactus. Now, she's absolutely solid. Hear that? Much better than before. Just checking this weld now. Good to see the old girl coming back stronger than before. Yeah, it's satisfying finally getting these rough welds blended properly into the Supra bodywork. Looks much better, just keep finding more dents under the old P, so we're just carefully spreading this filler over the low spots before sanding it back. We're finally getting the surface straight enough for the next preparation stage. Just gotta wipe all this dust off first. We're finally getting some primer on this girl. Been a long time coming to cover up all that previous damage. Just gotta make sure it feels smooth by hand. Nearly there with this quarter panel. Yeah, finally starting to look straight. All that sanding was worth it. The primer's gone on nice and smooth. It's incredible how different she looks now. Hard to believe this was the same neglected shell that rolled in here a few months back. After all the welding and bodywork, it's unreal to finally lay down some color. This orange metallic is looking the goods. After months of repair work and sanding, it's good to finally see the body come back to life. The color's spot on. It's just so satisfying watching the metallic pink finally flow out smoothly after all that preparation work. You have to be extremely careful around these old chrome pieces, and replacement parts are nearly impossible to find now. Yeah, so this is the AC bin now. After months of solid draft, we just let her sing to her. Looks fantastic, she's finally done. Been months of cutting and welding, but look at that finish now. Absolutely stoked with how the orange has a nice metallic finish finally leveled out properly, mate. It just feels incredibly rewarding after all the hours we put out. This is the satisfying part, finally getting to the finishing stage after all that hard yakka. Looks mint now. It's rewarding seeing this metallic finish finally level out properly after all the hours spent preparing the body. Honestly, it's unbelievable seeing the old girl finally looking complete again. After all the grinding, sanding and paint work, she's come up. It's unbelievable how these small finishing details completely change the personality of the car. Once the reflections start sharpening after months of work, turning that abandoned shell into this, it feels unbelievable, mate. The polishing stage really brought it back to life. Yeah, it's unreal seeing the reflections come alive. Feels mint after all the paint correction, finally at the point where the Supra can sit on its own wheels again. Been months on the stand, so yeah, bloody stoked with how they turned out. It's satisfying seeing the fresh paint finally lining up properly after months of work, hey? She's finally starting to look complete now that the front end's coming together properly. It's good to finally get her back on proper wheels after spending so long rebuilding everything underneath. It's satisfying seeing it finally come together after all the time spent on the wiring and damaged trim. Yeah, getting these harnesses sorted took absolutely ages. The old wiring rim was totally cactus, so getting it routed properly now is good to finally be at this stage, just double checking everything one last time before she's complete. Honestly, it's unbelievable seeing it fully restored after months of relentless work. Feels good, mate. It's just satisfying finally filling everything up after rebuilding this whole engine bay. Feels good to see it come together. And that's the electrical system live for the first time since the rebuild. It's always been nerve-wracking, but incredibly satisfying when it responds. Right, first start after the rebuild. That sounds beautiful. Absolutely rad to finally hear her running properly after months of yakka. It's incredibly rewarding seeing every rebuild component finally operating smoothly together. She's purring with taking the months to rebuild her from the ground up, but finally getting to drive this old girl properly. It feels absolutely brilliant. This is the best part. After months of dust and grease, getting it perfectly clean like this, it just feels like it's quite surreal seeing her finish. After months of rebuilding, she's finally alive again, and looking magnificent out here. Just feels so satisfying finally seeing the car complete outside the workshop after all the late nights rebuilding it.